good afternoon, and welcome to this edition of Referee Corner here on IslandStats.com. I'm your host, Earl Baston, and joining me right now are CONCACAF and FIFA referee instructors, Mr. Victor Stewart and Mr. Rohan Thorburn, as well as CONCACAF Women's Elite Fitness instructor, Kalisha Anton. First of all, thank you very much all for joining. Kalisha, I'll start with you. We've been in this pandemic for quite some time. Football internationally and regionally has resumed, but what has been the toughest part for you helping people to get prepared to officiate?
Well, as you say, football has resumed, but it has not resumed in most of the countries. In some country where it has resumed, it has to be stopped because of, as you mentioned, the pandemic. So it's just to keep encouraging them by sending out the programs. And if you can do individual sessions, then that's what we do. And then they're in contact with us to modify programs or sessions depending on the situation of each individual. And there's also that motivation, that psychological motivation as well, that is important also to keep pushing them to get to their goal, actually.
And Victor, what's been your conversations with people you've been working with of late? He's dropped out. Well, Rohan, let me ask you, what has been the conversation with the people that you have been working with of late with regards to the stop-start, the potential of doing matches and trying to stay fit and stay on top of things throughout this pandemic?
Well, the most critical area that we have found is that it is pretty much a challenge to motivate these officials, to keep going, seeing that not a lot was happening. Luckily, we started our league here, but there's still a lot that needs to be done in terms of the continuation of the training programs that Kalisha and Alan keep sending on a monthly basis. But how do we touch base with these referees on a one-to-one basis to try and get them to work? Some may not work at the intensity that they want to based on the location and the circumstances as it relates to the protocols that govern various parishes. So, we have to deal with it on a case-by-case basis.
Victor, just before you dropped out, I was asking what has been the challenge for you in trying to keep the people that you deal with or have been dealing with kind of motivated and to continue on in their training and in preparation? Did you hear me, Victor? Okay, he seems to be having problems. Good evening, Mr. Wade. How are you, President of Bermuda Football Association?
Good evening, everybody. How's the family? I see some familiar faces.
Yes, very familiar. Very familiar.
Yeah.
Well, Kalisha, obviously you still have to do, you and Rohan still have to travel quite a bit to ensure. I'm just going to bring in Mr. Dave Meikle as well. Good evening, Mr. Meikle. How are you?
Or good afternoon. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Kalisha, let's talk a little bit about the challenges being presented to you in your day-to-day operation of trying to get these people up and running.
So as was mentioned earlier, we still do ensure that each referee receive their fitness program each month. With the FIFA rap courses that is happening now in presence, that where the instructors must travel now. To be honest, it is for me, it's just the same activity. Maybe Victor can speak a bit more on this. It is just the same as before, but we have to be very mindful of protocols and the whole that we're still in a pandemic, and you have to understand that we still have to ensure that all protocols are being observed, that the 6 feet, distance, to keep sanitizing the COVID test all the time to ensure that there's safety for each individual that is involved in the course. And of course, for yourself, when you're traveling from, taking transits into different airports, you still have to be careful and so forth. But other than that, it is just like going about your normal day, everyday activity at an MA course, having to teach, having to do the practical sessions, having to engage the referees, having to correct them, having to teach them new technical aspects, fitness wise and technical wise. It is just the same, but just that we're in a pandemic and we have to be even much more cautious of what we're doing and so on.
Right. Well, Mr. Miko, welcome back. We first talked some time ago when we were just starting to get into this pandemic. How have things materialized from your side of operations in ensuring that we have officials for not only international competitions, but they're up to speed with domestic and regional events?
Okay. Undoubtedly, the pandemic brought on some amount of challenges, but with challenges, you have to find solutions, right? So one of the things that we have done is to establish virtual referee courses, right? So we interact with the referees on most weekdays, Thursdays, with the Caribbean referees. So we have the normal video clips. We use video clips that are relative to the Caribbean. So we use those videos to keep the match officials sharp, right? Kelisha as well has done her part in that. We collaborate together. So we host a series of fitness workshops for the fitness instructors to try to help keep them motivated and so that they can also, in turn help their match officials, right? In addition to that, we have sessions with the MA instructors, right? So we try to keep them up to speed so that they in turn can continue to learn the art of Victor can find a better word for me, lecturing or to bring across refereeing concepts to the match officials in an effective manner. So pretty much that is what we have been doing. We also interface with the head of referees in the various member associations, and this is very important because the head of the referee is the one who's supposed to be pushing the program, right? Mm-hmm. So if we can find maybe a couple more head of referees with the energy that Cranston Williams has, then life would be much easier for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I see you brought a smile to Mr. Mark Wade's face. Mr. Wade, it wasn't but a few days ago that you had Natasha Trott meet the standard for the women's AR fitness tests. Heading in the right direction with the program. What's your thoughts having the opportunity to have Rohan in Bermuda just a few weeks ago? Kalisha's been here regularly and even talks with someone like Dave Miko. What's your thoughts on how they construct and make sure that the tools that is needed for the Bermuda referees is provided?
Well, it's it's important, right? A lot of times having a different voice saying the same things is important, but it's also the personalities, where the energy that they bring, and they're part of the family now. So when they come, I always welcome them because they're part of the woodwork really now. And it's always good to have a family member come home and bring that lift. So that's what's happening within the referee community. And that's just changing the vibe has been tremendous, right? I've been around since 2010. So I've seen the sort of culture change, and that's always exciting. And obviously to have some success is bonus.
Yeah, definitely. Rohan Bean, and you were just here a few weeks ago. From the time previous to you coming back, knowing what the challenges are, did were you surprised at where the officials were as far as fitness, as far as awareness, as far as everything that you were trying to update them on?
I think what the most critical thing that I found with the officials were their level of enthusiasm to come out and to train, irrespective of the challenges that they have in terms of the pandemic that they're in, but the level of effort and enthusiasm that was portrayed was commendable.
Mm. And Kalisha, I know you keep a track on what goes on in Bermuda. How have you been impressed with how they've been able to carry on, and do you see that in other locations?
Well, as you say, I kept abreast of what is going on in Bermuda. Having seen Stefan and Natasha and Clinton at the U14 and Omari also, you could see that some work they have been continuing to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned the last time I was here that Natasha I saw first in 2020, just before the lockdown, and she was at the course when I was there. And she was just coming out of track and field and bodybuilding. I was encouraging her, just stay, girl. You will understand, learn, you will see everything. And to see where she's at now, it's huge. No, it shows that she saw it, she wanted it, and she committed to it. She dedicated herself to it. And yes, it is being seen in other territories as well. You have some youngsters in Jamaica also coming up, insane kids as well. So you're seeing the progress and the dedication of the youngsters, the youth in other member associations as well. And you saw it at the U14. Victor, well, he's not here, but you saw it at the U14. You saw how enthusiasm they were to learn new concepts, to train, to be advised by CONCACAF and FIFA instructors, and they were open. So it's not just only Bermuda, yes, you're seeing it in other member associations, and that is good.
Yeah, real good. Mr. Miko, let me ask you, how do I know you guys started CONCACAF prior to the pandemic, started a campaign to try and get more officials throughout the Caribbean involved. Obviously, the pandemic put a hold on that because you had to now focus on what you had and try to keep them going. But when will we see any kind of rejuvenation of looking and promoting for officials throughout the region?
Well, this activity is ongoing. Undoubtedly, it has been affected by the pandemic. But I know a lot of MAs have been trying to get match officials. They have been trying to motivate the ones that they still have, and they're trying to pick out the talented ones for further training. So it's something that is ongoing, but it's just have been made 100 times harder by the advent of the pandemic. However, again, Kelisha just spoke, but I have to diff her a little bit from her. Yes, and she said it. I shouldn't. Well, I am not going to contrast her. She said it. The match officials are enthused. However, and you can quote me. Not all HORs are so enthused, right? And I have to go back again and hats off to Mr. Williams because he is highly enthused, right? So I get if I don't get a call from any other MA on a daily basis, I have to get a call from Cranston. Always thinking, always coming up with new ideas and running it by me and say, hey, can this work? Right? So I remember the other day, well, not the other day, but maybe a couple of years ago, he came to me about Natasha Trott. And I said, Crenton is on one of his dreams again, right? Yeah, because he told me about Natasha. Of course, I like to see individuals for myself as well. But Kelisha and Victor came back and they said, hey, I said, hey, Princeton keep calling me about this young Miss Natasha Trott. And Victor said, yeah, she has some quality. She has little experience, but she has some quality. Same thing from Kelisha, right? So now you put that enthusiasm from the HOR, that energy, that fuel from the HOR, put it with the enthusiasm and the dynamism from the referee. What do you get? You get a potential FIFA match official, right? So she went to the U14. I call because Cranston is always at me, always. Hey, Michael, when can I get some opportunity from my referees? So when the U14 thing came up, he was the first HOR I called and said, hey, something is coming up shortly. I think it's going to be rushed. However, try to put your people together, right? And he said, no problem, boss. No problem. I got them. Right? And the rest is history. They came. So it's good when you can pick, you can select people and say, okay, go for a trip. But what they did on the tournament advanced their own cause. And what it did too was to give me some grounds to stand on. Because if Bermuda, let us say, nominates, Natasha, then I can stand up in the meeting and say, okay, I fully endorse this appointment. Yeah. So because she and Cranston have given me grounds to stand on. Yeah. So just today we had a meeting. Over the weekend we had a lot of MAs who were supposed to be doing fitness tests. And the question was asked, Michael, what about the fitness test from Bermuda? What about the fitness test from Barbados? What about the fitness test from this place, that place? And I said, okay, the young miss from Bermuda was successful. If you check on what's the social page name? What's it name? Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook, yes.
If you check on Facebook, you will see the fitness test being run. Okay, so her name has been ticked off to participate for confirmation participation in the U17. Where now she'll have to prove, and at this point, I have no doubt that she will be able to prove that, hey, I belong here, right? And that is because of the work that is being done by both the match officials and the HORs. Yeah. So good stuff.
Music to your ears, Mr. Wade, I take it.
Oh yeah.
and I know when Cranston comes to meeting, because I know how these things go. I know when he probably comes to meetings, maybe the president, maybe the GenSec, I know Mr. Sabir quite well. I know maybe they might say, we don't know, we're not so sure. But like persons who, like other, like financial partners, once they start to see results, I don't think if Cranston comes to them and say, hey, I want to do this, I don't think they are going to say no, because the results are there. Just today, I don't want to take up the program, I was speaking to another small MA, and they were saying, oh, we are so small, we can't do this and we can't do that. And I said, well, if you check the Bermuda MA, that little dot out in the Atlantic Ocean, then you will say something else. Because a few years ago, they managed to get on one individual. Now they're advancing more individuals. So it means that if once you put your shoulder to the wheel, you can move it. That's what it means. Yeah.
Oh. Mr. Wade?
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing is that the energy from our head of refereeing permeates right through everyone, right? You know the same. The organization sometimes takes on the personality of the leader, so the energy flows through everybody, really. So we have our instructors. We have a new young instructor who are energetic. And we've got our fitness instructor who's energetic. He wants to do everything actually, but the energy is there, and the energy actually it actually permeates even through the executive. So even when we're sitting in the executive room and you know, Cranston comes up with one of his ideas, Mr. Rico, you know, it energizes everyone, you know, and everybody wants to enjoy the same sort of success in their portfolios. So you see how, you know, we use it, you know, we use that energy to find success elsewhere. So it's you know, it's always a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I know for sure. I know Victor was having a bit of trouble getting on, but Victor, Rohan, and Kalisha have actually helped to steer us in the right direction because what they've been able to do by coming to Bermuda and giving our officials the necessary tools needed, and then the rest is for them to carry on. I think that's been a big plus, and the energy that Cranston has had. And I'm pretty sure he's probably bugged not only Dave, but I'm pretty sure Rohan, Victor, and Kalisha's phones have been ringing for many, many years to get them through. But Kalisha, one of the first times you came here, I remember having a conversation with you. You talked about potential. You talked about, you know, what the possibilities for the Bermuda officials. Say now we're on what, maybe 4 or 5 years on down the road. Where do you see that potential now?
So Dave spoke so enthusiastically, you know, about Bermuda. and I spoke to you some years ago about potential, but guess what happened? You're seeing it now, right?
Yes.
Clinton,
Yes.
Omari. I remember when we first met Omari, he was just in high school. Where's Omari now? In university. And he's still doing what
Yes.
he has to do. So you're seeing the whole long-term athlete development, and you're seeing the long-term and short-term goal of Cranston. And it's now 2021, 2022, and you're seeing Omari, you're seeing Clinton, you're seeing Stefan, you're seeing Natasha. Back in 2016, I think Rohan and I were at the U15, and that's when we saw Tashan as well. So you have
Yes.
Tashan, and 5 years after, you have Omari, Stefan, and guess what? Omari's still young, so he's still
Yes.
potential because he still has 2 to 3 more years to go. And then you have the youngsters in the academy now, Emily, that's coming up in the academy, and just as enthusiastic and so forth. So it is just to continue that long-term athlete development, that long-term goal, that short-term goal, and how we get them going up the ladder. And there's a lot of potential still in Bermuda. There's a lot of potential within the Caribbean. I have to speak of the Caribbean, but yes, there's a lot of potential. There is a lot of potential. But as Dave mentioned, it's up to the HORs, it's up to the instructors to get that potential, to see the potential, and to work with the potential. And something that Cranston does that's very good, he tends to bring in the external voice, because as the president says, sometimes it's good to have that external person saying the same thing that somebody internally is saying. They will run with it. And it happens in many of the Caribbean countries as well. So it's just up to Cranston to continue, not to give up. And I hope he's listening, not to give up.
He can't give up. He can't give
and
up.
And the president knows what I'm talking about, because Cranston I'm done.
Yeah, he can't give up. I think Rohan and I started in Bermuda. How many years ago, Rohan?
Gosh.
About 7.
7 years ago. And that time, Omari Majors was a little skinny kid, right?
Yeah, he was in high school.
He's still skinny, but guess what? I moves.
But again, the point is, when we sat down with Cranston and say, hey, this is what you need to do. Yeah? And he said, trust me, man, trust me. Listen, man, I hear what you guys say. And so you can see, so if you want to measure the thing, you can check over the years, right? Over the years coming up, and you'll see progression, right? I have to say Earl before, because I don't want to complete the program without bigging up Kalisha, or else I will be finished. Because Kalisha too is doing a world of good in Antigua since taking over as head of referee. So yeah, so I have to big up Kalisha as well.
Well, congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Earl. But let me give you a joke behind of that. Let me give you a joke behind of that. So when I got the position, you know who's the first person I called?
Not Cranston.
Cranston. So he and I had a conversation. So I said, "Thanks, man, for everything. I will. Of course, I see what you have done, and of course, I'll do my best." He said, "No, you're going to do better than me. You in this? You the one who helped me, so you know how to do it." So that's how he is, no? Go ahead,
Oh
Rohan,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rohan, I know it's funny because Cranston does come up with some ideas like out of the blue. He'll be thinking of something and say, when you first met him and then hearing these things as they develop, how many times do you have to say, hold on. We can do it, but it has to be done these type of ways.
definitely. Particular ways we have to chart different ways so that we stay in line with regulations because
Right.
he's just enthusiastic and he comes up with ideas, very good ideas. So the only thing that we do is try to help him to push those ideas from a different level.
Mm.
And just to add to what Kelisha said earlier, Kelisha, I was there a couple of weeks ago, and Kelisha, the continuity for the referees there looked very, very bright. I had sessions with two of the young referees, and believe me, there's a lot of talent there, a lot of interest.
Well, and being pushed in the background because Mr. Williams is one of those that you can't tell no because he figures out a way for you to tell him yes, even after you said, I can't do it. And we all know because we've been down that road, the only thing he can't say no to is the fact that Mr. Reed will not accept his resignation. So he has to take it back each time.
Well,
Whose resignation? Whose resignation?
he has a
Just
target.
try.
He has a target he knows he has to meet. So until he does, we're not even having the conversation.
Yeah,
But,
that's I thought I heard him say something one time, and I said, "Listen, say again." 'Cause I didn't hear what you said. Yeah, so
yeah. So I mean, the other thing that's important though is to make sure that there is support behind the development, right?
Yeah.
And that support is not just financial. It has to be physical support. It has to be even when somebody's having a off day, you got to be able to jump in and support. So for me, Cranston has his budget. He spends it the way he wants. Unless he tries to do something completely crazy, and then our financial controller and I have to have a little chat with him, right? But it's like I said, it's refreshing and it actually helps the organization. So having the support behind success, it breeds success in other areas.
I want to ask Rohan and Kalisha, how does one become an instructor? Because I know with all this enthusiastic responses that we're getting in the country now, someone that is in the capacity of doing a trainer now may want to aspire to become an instructor of the Caribbean sort of thing. So I'm asking you guys before I ask Dave, because you guys are at the level in which then you step up to where Dave is. But to get to your level, how does one work towards that?
I see
Firstly,
Rohan waiting on me. Go ahead, Rohan.
firstly, I can speak on my behalf. Where it all started. Being an assistant referee for 10 years, and then deciding that I wasn't going to make it to the World Cup. What meaningful contribution could I make in terms of assisting other officials to get to a different level? At that time, there wasn't any physical trainer, and I was asked to fill that slot. I attended courses, probably 7-8 years of courses, and this is the result. But once you set your mind to wanting to achieve particular things, You cannot sit back and just wait on the basics. You have to reach out to get other things to help to improve oneself. And working with the referees also is very, very important, because that gives you experience that one needs to move forward. Alicia, your turn.
So for me, like Rohan, so I started out in this like I was national goalkeeper. Then I became a national referee, and I went off to university and came back and diverted to something different. Although I was still a part of the refereeing community. So there was a 2 or 3 course, just like Rohan spoke of, here in Antigua, and I got the opportunity to attend. I was not working with the refereeing group, but I was still amongst the refereeing group. But I was training national teams at the point in time and clubs. So I had the opportunity to attend, and it turned out that I was at that point in time I was the top of the class, and they eventually divided the Caribbean into some groups. So Rohan, myself, and I don't remember else, but we were responsible for some countries. And I just continue working up from there. I have the scientific background in fitness because that's what I studied, physical education and sports. So it was a much easier task to me as well. And I just continued attending these courses, as Rohan said, training with the referees now, because it's important that you get that practice, understand the movement that referees do on the field, understand referee fitness is different, understand that referee sprinting is different than a track and field sprinter. You have to understand all of this and then just continue to work hard towards it. Eventually, you're invited to more and more courses, from regional to the top level, and then you will be spotted by top instructors as well, who will eventually recommend you or something of that sort. That's how it happened for me. I guess everybody's journey or party will be different, but for me, that's how it happened.
You said something very interesting that I want you to kind of elaborate a little on. You mentioned a referee sprinting is not like a track and field sprinter. Because you have the technical background of the scientific background of that, can you just explain that just a little bit?
So when you're on the starting line in 100 meters, the judge would say, on your mark, set, go. But you recognize a sprinter keeps his head down and then goes into the drive phase. The referee can never put his head down because
It's an incident.
and missing what is going on. So he has to stay focused on the play, but now get into that drive phase, still looking up. So he has to react, and I don't really want to use the word react, but anticipate and go, while a sprinter now reacts to the starter and then go.
Okay, all right. You can't make it any more simpler than that. You got to keep your eyes on the play. So, Dave, let me ask you, because I know Mr. Williams always watches before he comes on, and he may have a knock on his door that someone wants to be a Rohan, wants to be a Kalisha. How does he kind of guide them through those steps, and with your help?
Okay, well, he would have to identify this individual. Preferably, ideally, we would want somebody who was in the system, but it is not limited to persons who are match officials. If there's an individual who has the talent, who has the instructional capabilities, and who can come down to, well, I shouldn't say come down, who can adjust to the refereeing, how you impart information to the referee, then that would be ideal. So once he spots that person, that individual would get that individual to start working with the match officials, let us say in Bermuda, right? And once he organizes his MA course, that individual would be either the lead instructor or a supporting instructor. And at that course, they would also be assessed or evaluated by a FIFA instructor who would be in attend by the FIFA instructor or the RDO, the referee development officer from FIFA, who would normally attend the course. So that individual will be assessed there. And once they are assessed there, an evaluation is sent on to CONCACAF FIFA, whether or not the individual is competent enough to work at the MA level, or whether the individual needs improvement, or if the individual has the potential to progress further, right? Once that happens, the individual is invited to the Futurity course, which is by invitation only, right? So the head of referee will have consultations with the refereeing manager for the region, as well as the RDO. Importantly, the match official, the individual must be working in the system, looking after the referees and the referees, right? So once they attend that Futurity course, again, they are evaluated as to their competency. And I think this Futurity course is a very demanding course where all the FIFA instructors attend, and they try ingenious ways, so the instructor has to come up with ways and means, different teaching methodologies, to get across to the match officials, both on the field and in the classroom, right? So once that happens, the match official is approved by the CONCACAF referee technical advisory team, right? As to their rank, whether they are a MA instructor, whether they are a CONCACAF instructor, or whether they can be elevated to the FIFA instructor status. So that's basically the route that is taken. That's the established route from CONCACAF level. Right. And of course, we have exceptions to the rule, because recently retired FIFA match officials can also be considered and given a fast pathway, to being an instructor in whichever capacity, whether fitness or technical.
Yeah. Just before I bring in Mr. Williams, I want to ask you, Mr. Miko, how do we gauge our growth when it comes to officials, the amount of officials we get in the World Cup? Because we have our officials at our regional events, but how do we gauge it by if we have hypothetically 3 or 4 referees from the region and maybe 3 or 4 assistant referees, or how do we gauge how we're moving forward in progression and being recognized globally?
The match officials are it's performance based, basically. It's performance driven, right? So what we do, and right now I'm trying to develop a uniform system of evaluating our match officials, right? So what obtains now is that we look at the games that the match official does, the assessments, which are important. So there's also the assessment marks. So after a referee does a game, they are given marks based on their performance in the matches, right? So over time, once the match official puts together a string of good performances, once everybody starts to talk about this match official, then the persons higher up zoom in on this match official. So it's like you start out at kindergarten. So kindergarten is like Bermuda. So Tashawn was produced by Bermuda, right? Now, once Tashawn reaches, the U14 level, it's CFU. Then CONCACAF steps in. So you're talking about primary or prep school, then high school, and then you graduate. So it's the same kind of activity, right? Oh. So, but it's generally performance based.
Okay, all right. Well, we want to welcome Mr. Cranston Williams to the conversation this evening. Mr. Williams, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, dear Mr. Days, and I'm all right. I've been watching and just listening and laughing. That's all I've been doing. For the past half an hour, I've been sitting here just listening and laughing.
Why would you
Now,
be
gentlemen,
laughing, Mr. Williams? Because we've been talking
because
about the success in which your programs have helped make this island be aware that we have officials that potentially can be knocking on Mr. Miko's door on a regular basis.
Mr. Miko and I talk quite regularly, so he knows what time it is. But I'm just laughing here. Everybody saying that I can't resign, I can't this, and what I do, what I don't do. I'm like, I find it very amazing. All these people are determining my life. But you know,
Yeah, sometimes that's what we do. Sometimes
yeah,
that's
Tell
what
me
we
more,
do.
buddy.
you see the guy that has the shirt on that's similar to me. That's the guy that's the real issue. Because initially, I was told I needed to have a FIFA person, so we got that. Then, before I could even give the young man the badge, I was told at the ceremony, oh, now I want a team. And at that time, I knew there was no way we could come up with a team. So now, you know, I remember, like I said, when Kalisha came, she met Natasha, and I was there like you, like, really? But now, you know, she's growing from strength to strength. So Mr. Miko is correct. I do bug him quite a lot. I bug Rohan the same way and Kalisha, but that's just me.
I wish all
And
the
I'm not,
inmates would bother me like that.
Mr. Miko
I'm
already
about to
told
move
you.
the goalposts again. Don't worry.
See, there we go. And this is what he does. And this is exactly what he does. This is what I'm talking about. But I must say, all jokes aside, exactly what the BFA, especially under Ma, you know, presidency, has been very, very supportive. You know, as I told Mr. Miku, the president is now my audio technician for our fitness test. Just imagine that. He's the gentleman who provides the sound, the music, everything at every single fitness test. He is there
Good.
now. That's something I could take off. I don't have to worry about.
Mm.
But I mean,
Well, that's in
I will
support.
say this.
That's in support.
Well, yes, I will say this, that considering when I first met Dave and Rohan, that was at least 7 years ago. I know I was real naive and green. And I remember the first night at Brother Bay, and Dave pulled me aside and said, listen, I like your enthusiasm, but you have to do this, this, and this. And of course, you know me very well. The word no somehow just doesn't resonate with me. And I had to go up against persons in the MA, you know, and it was, I guess you'd say, a learning experience. But at the same time, I realized I achieved what I wanted, which was an MA course. Because as the president said at that time, Bermuda was way, way out in the wilderness. Don't even, you could not mention the name Bermuda. So after the first one, which, you know, we got a very, very damning report, I told everybody, okay, my back is very broad. I can take my licks, but now we're going to go one direction, that's up. And since which things have, you know, slowly changed. And like Kalisha said, when I first met her with Victor, one of my ideas again, I went to the president. I said, listen, we need to get Tashawn and Antoine on the list. The only way that's going to work is I need somebody who knows what the tournament requires come to Bermuda. So there again comes Kalisha. Ask how many times I sent an email or WhatsApp, can you come? Can you come? Are you coming? To finally say, yes, I'm coming. I just don't believe in taking no for an answer. And Mr. Miko, I warned you already. Please, you're putting up target on my back, sir. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep.
Yep.
Like Mr. Wade said, the goalpost will be moved. Don't worry about that. But let me ask you, Mr. Williams, when you saw what Kalisha, what Rohan, what Victor, what these guys have been able to do with the talent you have on island, have you been surprised by the way the officials here have been receptive to the information and attempted to do just about everything being asked of them?
How can I say this in a very, let me give you the politically correct answer. What I have found is that our officials, as the president said, when you have a different voice coming in from outside saying the same thing, they somehow seem to listen. I have seen Kalisha come here. You've had training 6 days straight. Everybody shows up for the 6 days. I've seen Rohan come 10 days. You could have 10 days straight training. Everybody shows up. However, when we have other persons calling training, you might see somebody this week, once, you don't see them next week. So what the president's saying is correct. But what I realize is that the formation of the academy, I think that helped to also change the culture of refereeing. Because with the academy, persons now are seeing that, you know what, this can take me somewhere. So with the Amari, the Stephen, the Clinton, the Natasha, and you have Tashawn. Then you have some youngsters coming through who you're going to be amazed at, Mr. Nico, like a Jonah Truck. You have an Elijah Samuels. These are youngsters. Siobhan Nisbet, Cavon Nisbet. You already know about Emily. You know, we have some youngsters that when they come of age, be ready. We also have Adria, who now wants to be a referee. So I think with that and get exposing them early, I think that's where things will change. You have a Dekeo Lavrock. You have what's the youngster that Rohan met? Zuri Swan. Zuri is 14, I think. She came training Rohan and female, and she did all the exercise and didn't even look like it phased her one bit. So you have a good pool of people coming through. But as you know, like I say, I try and get these guys come on a regular basis to support our local instructors because I found from years ago, bringing in the outside help, it just works.
Yeah. Rowan, let me ask you, because he named off quite a few of the young people that you would have met just recently. Seeing that young talent, knowing they are years away from being able to do anything internationally, what's some of the advice you handed out to them to kind of keep them that much more enthusiastic about the potential of doing something internationally down the road?
Well, one of the things you have to do is point to the persons that work at the higher level, at the highest level, the World Cups, the Gold Cups, and the CONCACAF tournaments. How did they get there? They started right where these persons are at. So it's about setting that goal and working towards achieving that goal. The goal, you have to do it in short term. What is it that I want in 1 year? Where do I want to be in 2 years? And the most important thing, and Kelisha will tell you, encouraging them to come to you for advice. You know, the instructor should be there to be that mentor, that guiding light for them. So they are there open for questions, for guidance, because let's face it, these guys are young and enthusiastic with all the talent that you want to think about. So it's all about guiding them in that particular direction that requires them to get to these levels. So you keep moving up the ladder step by step.
Now, Talisha, how have you found moving into your new position and the challenges that you have? How many do you have? A shortage of officials? Are you got an abundance of officials? And how have you settled into the position?
I think you cut off, but I'm assuming that's for me, right?
Yes, that's you. Yes, Talisha, yes.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
Well, for me, it's like it's a continuation because I've been, working with the referees here, the officials here, and I've been, on a recruitment drive and everything. It's just an official position now. Before I didn't know I was going to get the position, but I was just working because obviously I'm from Antigua, and I don't want to be a fee for fitness instructor and have my persons at home struggling. That's just how I think. I can't be outside helping everybody else and my backyard is dirty, if you understand.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
just how I think about the whole Caribbean in general. No, I cannot go to work with World Cup candidates and not see Caribbean officials and help them as well. And so it has been good. I'm creating some recruiting programs as well. Somewhat equal to the academy, but I don't call it an academy, it's just a recruiting class. And that is just working as well along with the advanced officials. We would have had one official at the Gold Cup as well. So that was something great for us in Antigua. And then there's another official who is performing exceptionally well also on the international stage. So we have been working hard in order to get officials at the top level as well, and also to create a new pool of officials, because I believe, like in any country, we have a lack of officials as well. And so you have to start from that young age. So as Rohan mentioned, in Bermuda, as he was there last, he sees the 14-year-old and everything. I have some of those here as well, which is just shocking, because and they're girls, as Quentin mentioned as well. They're girls. They just want to come and get in. And I think the thing is, the motivation factor for them is that a woman is the instructor. So, okay, I can do it then. So the 14-year-old, the 17-year-old, the 20-year-old, young guys as well, and that's great. It's good to see that people want to get into the area of officiating, and you don't stop them, because I have a few who are still involved in sport, and it may not be football, but volleyball and so on. But I tell them, continue to play your sport, and you train, and it's good because it helps you with your multi-percent. You just develop in all areas of fitness. So by the time you at the age now where you're ready to officiate, you're set because you're developed. So it's been good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. What's on the horizon in the very near future for officials?
Okay. Well, I think next month we'll be having the U17 competition, and what has happened is that because we just had the U14 competition. We had some very good performances coming from that competition, and I mentioned it to my colleagues in the refereeing department, and they said to me, you know what, we have the under 17 competition coming up. Let's bring some of these match officials from the U14 into the U17. And they asked me whether or not the MAs were going to be nominating them. And I said, yes, they will be nominating them. So what this is going to be doing is going to be giving them a chance to evaluate the match officials before approving, their nomination, right? So this is good. None of these match officials knew that they would reach this level. But they know. We had a meeting with them last Thursday. Was it Kelisha? Congratulating them for their participation in the U14, and we mentioned to them, we didn't call the names, but we mentioned to them that, hey, some opportunity will come up shortly. Be prepared, and when you get that opportunity, make sure you grab it with not just both hands, but everything on you that can grab. Right? Because as I pointed out to them, they will be rubbing shoulders with match officials from North and Central America. Now, this region are what you would want to style as powerhouses in refereeing. Right. Because they already have a huge jumpstart. They have well-organized football. They have, in most cases, a professional environment in which their match officials operate. So, like in the US, in Mexico, in Canada, persons at that level officiate as a profession. Right? So you have persons who are qualified as doctors, lawyers. Yes, some of these people hold on to those things, but once they get the fax, the email, the text, the WhatsApp, there's a game, the office is closed, and they head out. They head out for the games, right? So in these countries, the refereeing is professionalized. They are accustomed to a professionalized environment. So in Mexico, I don't want to quote the amount, but it's a couple of $1,000 well, maybe $4,000 or $5,000 well per month. They are assured of. It could be more, right? In the US, it's basically the same. In in UNCAF era, in UNCAF, it's the same, right? So there, the match officials are more stable. In the Caribbean, it's not so, right? In the Caribbean, I think our MAs, there's a hesitancy to appropriately. I want to speak very, very coyly about, but there's a hesitancy to appropriately remunerate match officials, right? There's that hesitancy, and what that does is that it drives match officials away at all levels. It drives the referees away, it drives the instructors away, and everybody else who is connected to the thing, right? So once we can use these other means, so when these referees come to the U14, when they go to the U17, they will be exposed to a higher level of competition, to a higher level of officiating that they will have to come up to, right? And I'm pretty sure that the match officials that we have chosen, based on their performances, that they will, get to go to the U17s once they have passed the fitness test in their respective MEs, because the fitness test is highly important in this regard. From there, once they do that, more doors will open.
Okay.
And if the door is not open, they can kick it down.
They left Mr. Williams right behind them, or probably in front of them, kicking it. So, Mr. Williams, just before we wrap up, obviously, the Bermuda Football Association has built a really, really good relationship with the office of Dave Miko, and also the instructors of Victor, Rohan, and Kalisha. Just encouraging to build these relationships and build these steps. How do we ensure that we keep these relationships and possibly build on them from a president standpoint?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think just to make sure that they understand the big picture, and that they are a part of the big picture. We talk about improving the standard of football in Bermuda and the product on the field of play, so that our spectators and our players enjoy the game. Well, improving refereeing is a big part of that. So they are a big part of that, which is happening in Bermuda. So that's something that I want them to also know that they're a part of. But in terms of strengthening the relationship, they'll hear about the new goalpost position pretty soon, because no one's resting on their laurels here. So we're not going to sit and just wait on a team of officials. The next step for us is to have a professional official, and for us to now try and find an avenue and a pathway for our officials to move on to the professional side of the game at that level. So Mr. Williams has a task, and now all of our family have a task, because we want to move our officials into the professional realm. Just like footballers, we want our officials to be professional. So there are markets where officials are professional and full-time, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be looking for our officials to follow that same pathway. So there you have it. Goalpost move.
Goalpost move. Well, Mr. Williams, what you got to say to that, Mr. Williams? Because obviously, it's on your shoulders.
This is what I'm talking about. I feel like I'm Wayne Rooney. I'm finding out about goalposts being moved on your show. Like, what is this? You know what I mean? No, but for me, I know the president's always coming up with something to challenge me, because he knows that's just how it is. But I also would like to stress and state that Stephen, Clinton, and Amari, they did pass the fitness test prior to going to under 14. Mr. Miko, just letting you know. So they did pass. Natasha at the time, because we were trying to do something a little different, we did give Natasha the men's test. That's why she was successful at the time. She did do 7 laps of the men's AR test. But since we should do regular women's test, and she breezed through. I know the president.
Remember the steps, right? Remember the steps. Kindergarten, prep school, then high school.
Well,
yeah.
Well, we try to skip a couple.
Let me add in there.
They want to go from preschool to college.
Dave, let me add in there. Before to the men's test, there's a World Cup candidate AR test as well.
Yeah.
So before attempting her on the men's test, now you know that
they went straight university.
And would have done 7 laps of the men's test. Then she should now do the World Cup candidate women's test. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I really, really, really want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I think the advice that's been given, the expertise that has been offered here, and the support from the president, I think Bermuda officials under the leadership of Cranston Williams have a pathway to success if they want it, because a lot of the times you can lead the horse to water, but you can never make it drink. It has to want to drink on its own. So as long as the opportunities are being presented to our officials and they realize that it's now on them, I think that's where we have to get to. And I think we're almost there. But Mr. Wade, keep moving. You go, Cranston. You got to get some goalposts that you stick down that don't come out. These girls that we have now, they keep moving. You can move them. You can get a bunch of 3-year-olds and just push the girls. Yeah. So look, get those little goalposts that used to stick in the ground. Yeah. Can't move them. Yep. But again, thank you, folks. I would want to welcome you guys back sometime soon. I guess you'll be welcoming them in Bermuda sometime soon again, because another course is coming up. And Mr. Miko, you haven't been here for a while, so don't be a stranger to the island of Bermuda. You can come down and see what Kalisha and what Rohan have been talking about our youngsters for yourself.
I'm well aware.
Okay. All right. Well, folks, enjoy the rest of your night. I appreciate your time.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good evening.
Okay, bye-bye.